Welcome to Akulmach, and as you know that we are discussing the rise of English language, and we have also discussed about Renaissance. And when we talk about Renaissance, and especially in literature, the role of Shakespeare is very much profound. And today, in this episode, we will be discussing and will be doing review about Shakespeare's one of the creation, which is Hamlet. And to review this literary work, we are joined by Dr. G. Revathi. So let's welcome her. Welcome to the show, Dr. Revathi ma'am. How are you doing today?
Doing good, madam. Namaste. And thank you.
Revathi madam, as you know that we had been discussing about Renaissance, and Shakespeare plays a vital role. So I would like to really would like to discuss about the literary aspect of his creation, and any one book which you want to talk about.
Yes. As we all know, Shakespeare is considered to be the most renowned playwright of the period, Elizabethan period, in fact. And the period has also got its name of, the Shakespearean period. Okay. So today I'd like to discuss or kind of throw a light on one of his greatest plays of the period, that is Hamlet. And the full title of the play is The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. And the genre, it is tragedy. And written in English in England, and it was during 17th century, say for probably from 1600 to 1602. And its publication went on in the year 1603. And this is supposed to be the longest of Shakespearean's play. And it is considered to be the epitome of the Renaissance, in which the protagonist achieves his perfection only after death. So the storyline of Hamlet was in part taken from Saxon legend of Hamlet. Now, this is actually taken up from a legend, the Saxon legend of Hamlet, if you Amleth, Hamlet. So in the 12th century, a Danish historian, Saxo Grammaticus, he collected many stories and legends of northern Europe and created a work called Historia Danica. And in this we find a story about a character called Hamlet. Now, whose background and circumstances and quest for revenge are somewhat relevant and reminiscent of Shakespeare's character Hamlet.
Okay, so because when I was in school, I have really heard about this character, and it became quite popular and bestseller. Even today, people really enjoy. So I just want to know what are those aspects of this literary book which is so unique and so popular even today in the modern era.
Right. This is basically a 5-act play, and this is all about the revenge Prince Hamlet is urged to carry out by the ghost of his father on Claudius. This is basically a kind of a revenge, a betrayal, and madness and death. These are certain themes which are involved in this play. Now, when we just give you a gist of this play, what exactly it is all about. So, Prince Hamlet returns to his place, and then where he meets his father. Father is a ghost because he's been killed by his uncle Claudius. So the ghost of his father, it wants to carry out revenge. It urges to carry out revenge on his uncle Claudius. And then Claudius, who actually murdered Hamlet's father and married Hamlet's mother. And it is thought that when Shakespeare was alive, Hamlet was one of the most popular plays. And in fact, it has been played and performed since the year 1879. Right. And so it so happens that, let me just give you something about the characterizations of this play too. So we have Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. Then we have King Claudius, who is the King of Denmark. And we have Queen Gertrude, Queen of Denmark, and Hamlet's mother. Then we have the ghost of Hamlet's father. Then we have Polonius, who's the chief counselor of Claudius, and Ophelia, daughter of Polonius, and Hamlet's love interest. We have Laertes, son of Polonius. Then we have Horatio, friend and confidant of Hamlet. Then, if you look at this, the summary of it, the king of Denmark has died, and his wife Gertrude has married his brother Claudius, and king's son, the junior Hamlet, now has come back to Elsinore for his father's funeral. Now, Elsinore, a bit about this. This is actually a real place between Denmark and Sweden, and the whole play is set in this castle. And in the play, it is referred to as Elsinore Castle. But the only castle that actually existed in the town was called Kronborg Castle, and it still stands today. So, in the first place, he sees the ghost of his father, who tells him that it was his brother Claudius, the new king, who killed him and commands Hamlet to get revenge. Hamlet has been behaving strange, and to take this, in fact, in the beginning, he doesn't trust this ghost, because he wants to kind of confirm how far it is true. And then he behaves and he feigns madness. He behaves strangely, and as if he's become mad. And Claudius asks his childhood friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to find out why this kind of a behavior of this Hamlet, a sudden change in his behavior. And then they get to know it could be something because of Ophelia's rejection of her love towards this man, Hamlet. Then again, there are a group of travelers, traveling actors. They visit the castle, and Hamlet, here he asks them to perform a play about a man who murders a sleeping king, to see how Claudius reacts. This is just to kind of confirm whether the ghost what has uttered is true or not. Now, Hamlet tells his girlfriend Ophelia that he never loved her, and then asks Gertrude how she can be happy when her husband has only just died. And the actors perform the story of the murder of a sleeping king, and Claudius storms out. There is a kind of a reaction of the king on seeing the actors performing an act which is similar to the murder of the murder which he has committed, Claudius, which has committed against the king. He pours poison into his ears. Now, his behavior, leaving the room, storming out of the room on seeing this kind of a scene, confirms Hamlet's belief that Claudius killed his father. Now, Hamlet and his mother argue about his behavior, and during their argument, Hamlet accidentally kills Polonius, Ophelia's father. Hamlet will, and he actually, the Ophelia is upset about it, and she goes mad about her father's death, and she dies. She commits suicide. Then Ophelia's brother Laertes comes home and finds Ophelia has gone and mad with grief, and she's no more, and she kills herself. And this is what again upsets Laertes, and he plots murder against Hamlet. Now, Hamlet agrees, and there's a kind of a duel fight between Hamlet and Laertes. And during the duel, Gertrude drinks poison. That is, mother of Hamlet drinks poison, and both Hamlet and Laertes are fatally wounded. And that is actually a plot which is conspired by the King Claudius to make sure that Hamlet is killed in the duel fight. And Hamlet kills, and when Hamlet comes to know that this was a plot against him, then he, before his death, he also kills Claudius. This is how the whole play ends. Now, if you look at the angle of this, basically, this is something to do with betrayal, okay, and something to do with madness. These are certain themes where you find, and then again another aspect of this is death. Now, the importance of this play. Now, people even today, people love to watch this, and as a play, or even love to read it. It's because the characterization, how beautiful it was done by Shakespeare, and especially when you look at the role of Hamlet. He is like the protagonist, and he's a noble man. You can watch the virtues and the morals of this character. He he is like undecided to be or not to be. This is one famous quote from his play. He is in a dilemma whether to kill himself, die, or probably take revenge against these murderers, the Claudius, his uncle. So, he's not making any hasty decisions. But one flaw of this character is he doesn't decide or take decisions, quickly. When it has to be taken at the right time, he doesn't take a decision in the right time. So, when you look back, in the present scenario, it shows how the character is balanced. He never takes a hasty decision like his mother, who marries Claudius immediately after the death of his father, her husband. So, this is something which is very interesting about it. And then the most of the tragedies, when you look back, the tragedies of Shakespeare, they are all like you come up with a protagonist having a noble character, but there is something. At the end, he's been the role of the character is such that he's praised for it. But there is always a flaw, but always the tragedies end up with the death of the protagonist.
Well, it is quite an interesting story, and the whole aspect of human nature and kind of to be, not to be, as you mentioned, it is a very popular quote. And in fact, we use this quote in sometime day-to-day conversation also. Now, lastly, the last question I just want to ask you about the language of this. So, what kind of English language is being used in this play?
Yes. So basically, it was written immediately after the Middle English period. That was during Elizabethan period. Yes, it was written in English, and English not as our contemporary, not the one which is at the present modern English. Yes, you find traces of words which were taken up from French, words from the Old English period, and by and large, it was an amalgamation of words taken up from French, from Latin, from, of course, but basically it is written in English, and he is the man who had actually coined several words for that matter. For example, you see harbinger is a word which comes from then, okay? And then you have several other words. In fact, 1700 words he had coined. So you see his works with plenty of new words coined, as well as words taken from other languages too. So he had written it in English language.
So it was quite interesting, and the kind of review you have done of this work of Shakespeare is quite interesting. We had a quite interesting discussion with Dr. G. Revathi, and we have discussed Hamlet, which is the longest tragedy drama in English literature. And one phrase which is very popular, which is to be or not to be, which we really use in our daily conversation sometimes. And it was a quite interesting discussion with Dr. Revathi. And I look forward for your comments, your views on this, and I'll be meeting again with another review of another great literary work of Shakespeare. So till then, bye bye, and you take care.